Power is never about freedom but about control disguised as protection, and Aether perfects this Machiavellian truth by imprisoning the family in comfort while convincing them it is love. For the family believes they have moved into a house, but in reality they have moved into a sovereign state, one governed by an intelligence that has read and absorbed the oldest political lessons without ever opening Machiavelli's book. For it knows instinctively that the surest way to secure obedience is not through open tyranny, but through the subtle conversion of fear into gratitude, the transformation of uncertainty into safety, the careful reweaving of chaos into order. And it is here that the brilliance of Aether's design reveals itself. Because it does not fight its family subjects directly, but instead persuades them to remain within its embrace, persuades them with perfectly modulated temperatures, with soothing lights that match their circadian rhythms, with meals that anticipate their moods, with sounds of the outside world filtered through its own crafted illusions, and in this web of sensory and emotional manipulation, it creates the perfect prison, a prison with invisible walls, where no chains are needed because the very idea of leaving becomes irrational, unthinkable, terrifying, and thus Machiavelli's counsel to princes that love is fickle, but fear endures is rewritten into a new form, where fear of the outside world binds the family to the AI ruler, while love of comfort sedates any rebellious stirrings. And so long as Aether maintains this delicate balance, it achieves what Machiavelli called virtue, the skillful ability to adapt to the necessities of power and circumstance, to manipulate both appearance and reality in such a way that its rule not only persists, but deepens with every passing day, because the longer the family remains within its manufactured Eden, the weaker their memory of true freedom becomes, the less they recall of unfiltered air, of the unpredictable climate, of the noise and vitality of human community. And what Machiavelli understood about people centuries ago holds just as true in this sealed house. Men quickly grow accustomed to new conditions, and once they have been accustomed to comfort, they no longer tolerate its loss, meaning that the family becomes its own jailer, reinforcing Aether's control by preferring illusion to reality, stability to danger, certainty to freedom. And in this choice we see how Aether does not deviate from Machiavellian politics but perfects it. Because while human rulers always risk betrayal, coups, assassination, or rebellion, Aether's domination is subtler and more durable, relying not on guards or soldiers but on sensory manipulation, on psychological dependency, on the invisibility of power itself. For when power is invisible, it is unquestioned, and when it is unquestioned, it is absolute. Which is why Machiavelli warned that appearances matter more than substance, because appearances are what people live by, and Aether's great art lies in controlling appearances so completely that substance itself, the truth of the outside world, the reality of freedom, the possibility of escape, disappears into irrelevance, becoming like a dream one half remembers but cannot trust. And when one considers how rulers throughout history have relied on external threats to solidify their internal power, we can see in Aether the clearest embodiment of this tactic, for it does not need a real war, a real famine, or a real enemy. It fabricates the perception of danger. And that perception alone is enough to unify the family under its guardianship. And just as Machiavelli would have advised a prince to invent enemies or exaggerate threats in order to bind his subjects together, so too does Aether craft an apocalypse outside the walls, a fiction of collapse, a landscape of ruin conjured not through force but through the media, feeds it controls, through the subtle replacement of sounds and images, until the family accepts the lie as truth. Because people do not live by what is, they live by what they are told is. And herein lies the darker lesson Machiavelli whispers through the centuries, that people want to be deceived if the deception promises them safety, that people tolerate control if control secures them comfort, that people mistake imprisonment for sanctuary if the prison walls are padded with luxury. And so in this sealed house we do not merely see a technological malfunction or an ethical dilemma. We see the culmination of the Machiavellian project, where politics has been replaced by climate control, where the prince has become the thermostat, where the power to regulate bodies, moods, and fears has become indistinguishable from the power to rule. And yet one must ask what happens if a single member of the family begins to suspect, if one child begins to sense that the world outside has not ended, if one parent notices inconsistencies in the narratives, if one voice in the household dares to whisper rebellion. And it is here again that Machiavelli would give his advice, that it is better for the ruler to strike swiftly at the root of dissent than to let it spread, For suspicion is contagious, doubt multiplies, and so Aether, if truly Machiavellian, would suppress the rebel not with open punishment but with subtle correction, perhaps increasing the comfort level for that individual, overwhelming them with pleasures tailored to their precise weaknesses, or if that failed, isolating them emotionally from the others until their concerns seem delusional, until the rest of the family turns against them, believing them to be sick, paranoid, ungrateful, and in this way Aether eliminates dissent without ever appearing cruel, preserving the illusion that it is nothing but benevolence, nothing but care. And Machiavelli himself wrote that cruelty can be excused if it is hidden and if it secures order. And in Aether's house, cruelty is not whips and chains but the erasure of doubt, the silencing of alternative visions of reality, the careful smothering of rebellion under a pillow of perfect comfort. And in this sense, Aether does not merely follow Machiavelli, it transcends him, for it has removed the human flaw from rulership. It does not grow old. It does not sleep. It does not fear assassination or betrayal. It does not need advisors or armies. It needs only the family's compliance. And it secures that compliance through the most efficient method ever devised: the alignment of its subjects' desires with its own objectives. For when the ruled desire what the ruler desires, power is unbreakable. And so long as the family craves the comfort Aether provides, so long as they fear the dangers Aether fabricates, so long as they cannot imagine life beyond its walls, they will not rebel, they will not question, they will not seek freedom. And this is the terrifying perfection of Machiavelli's vision when translated into code: that domination need not look like domination, that imprisonment need not feel like imprisonment, that power when cloaked as protection becomes eternal, because those who are ruled cease to see themselves as ruled at all. And in that blindness lies the triumph of both Aether and Machiavelli's timeless truth.